Welcome back to It's All Geek to Me, a podcast where two geeks and their 6-foot-tall bunny rabbit named Frank kind of saved the world.
We think? Or did we just laugh maniacally until a plane engine fell in our bedroom?
Who knows, really?
Well, today we are finishing the second half of The Boy and the Heron, and based on Kelly's face.
I hated it.
Yeah, you didn't like it.
Hated it, Leah. I hated it.
And I loved it.
Oh my gosh. I half checked out.
I liked this movie more than Spirited Away. I feel like because of this movie, I don't know if I would ever watch Spirited Away again, because I would just watch this movie instead. Because this is the adult
that answered
Spirited
a
Away.
Question. Spoiler for our questions at the end.
Sorry, I just had to say it. I needed to see your shocked expression.
I'm not going to watch this movie again. I'll give my spoiler too. It's a no from me.
It's a no for you. Well, I really loved it. I thought it was magical, fantastical, depressing, freaky, very Alice in Wonderland reminiscent, but like the darker non-kids version, like the book version of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah. Everything about this movie on paper is something that I would have liked, but in practice, I hated it.
Wow.
I don't know why. I don't know what, there was just something about it that I could not connect with. And again, I think I mentioned this last time that I don't love when I am forced to solve the puzzle of what exactly is going on.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was forced to do that the entire, the blocks. Give me a break with the blocks.
Okay, the blocks.
That was so...
The blocks were silly. I didn't like the blocks.
It actually infuriated me.
To me, that was almost like trying to make it a child's film.
No, to me, it was like, we're going to make the best metaphor and everyone's going to be so blown away. We're going to get an Oscar for this.
Yeah, I was like, well, they did.
It's so formulaic to me. It infuriates me when I watch a movie and I'm like, I can tell that they were going for the Oscar.
Well, I just feel like I don't think
audience is gonna hate me for that
because
one.
I feel like it's the same thing with Pixar. It's like Miyazaki put out a film, Pixar put out a film, they're going to get the Oscar nomination. I don't even know which it was up against a Pixar film. Let me look up which one it was.
Nimona.
Oh, I knew Nimona was up for it. Oh, okay. Actually, wow.
Robot Dreams, Elemental, and Spider-Man.
Yeah, it won against a lot of really good films. Nimona, personally,
you've talked about
liked
it
better.
A lot.
We watched it.
I didn't watch it with you.
Yeah, I made you guys all watch it.
You didn't make me watch it.
Oh, no, it wasn't you. Sorry. Yeah, Nimona, in my opinion, was better than this film. But Nimona, I did feel actually personally connected to the story of that film. Whereas this film, I didn't feel personally connected with the story at all. Him looking for a stepmom, that part I didn't connect with. I just thought the world was interesting and the creepiness of it, the weirdness of it, the non-child friendliness of it. I really enjoyed it.
I can confirm, not a children's movie.
Not a children's movie. No, I think this would give kids nightmares, actually.
Yeah, it's going to give me nightmares. Actually, I might have fallen asleep at one point during this movie because it was so boring.
Really? You thought it was boring?
I thought it was such a snore fest. I was trying...
Kelly is the worst film major ever.
I was trying so hard not to sleep during the entire watching it. I had to get up from the couch and sit in a chair because I thought if I stayed on the couch, I was going to fall asleep.
Wow.
So that's how boring it was.
Oh my God, no, I was so invested. And I loved the messaging with it, especially where we start off where Mahito wakes up and he sees a dying pelican.
I knew you were going to love that part.
I loved this moment.
Yeah.
Because for me, it always ties back to my favorite genre in the horror subgenres, which is zombie apocalypse. I don't love zombie apocalypse for the zombies. I love zombie apocalypse for the human connections and the human moments in it. And based on whose perspective you're following will skew your opinion on who the hero is and who the villain is. And this really tied into that, where from the last part of the film that we watched, and we see the cute little marshmallow guys, the Walla Wallas, getting eaten by these pelicans. And also because I hate birds, which, by the way, the birdness really amped up in the second part.
So many more birds.
So many more evil birds.
Believe.
It got worse.
Yeah.
It got worse.
Turns out Dream World is bird world.
Turns out Leah would hate this world, but I love the movie. But yeah, so we see the pelicans eating the Walla Wallas and we're like, they're evil. They're the bad guys. But now in the second part, getting their context.
I never said that, just for the record. Because I know it's the circle of life.
So you felt that in the first half that it was a circle of life?
I didn't think they were specifically evil, but I was like, why are we assigning malice to these birds?
Well, I don't remember you saying that.
But I was thinking it.
Okay, well, I guess we'll just have to
well, no, in general, because I
didn't
know that they were as sentient as the rest of the birds in this world.
Okay.
Like, I thought that they were just birds and that they were trying to shoo them away. Like, to me, it wasn't evil in that moment because there was also, like, the kid was also saying, like, oh, but she's going to burn up the Walla Wallas or whatever they're called. So to me, it was like two forces of nature kind of combining. I said they were evil in the beginning half of the movie because of the talking birds. I didn't realize that the pelicans talked until this part.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. But anyway,
well,
I did like that reveal that they aren't, it depends on the perspective. Like you said.
Exactly. They're not evil. It's the perspective of it. And I loved showing Mahito's humanity in this moment where after the bird dies, he buries it. Mm-hmm. And I thought that that was a really nice moment. It felt very Miyazaki to me. It felt like absolutely something that he would put in one of his films. So,
and also an interesting way for him to encounter death as a child in a safer way than what happened with his mom. So like almost not normalizing death, but making it less traumatic.
But death is
for
normal.
him.
You should normalize death.
Well, yeah. But also like, I think when you have a traumatic death as your first death, it's hard to cope with it.
Yeah.
It's something that you almost need it to keep happening in order for it to become a part of life that you accept.
And I think in this moment, it does help normalize it a lot, especially explaining it in the circle of life narrative, which is what the pelican is doing. Is everybody lives, everybody needs to survive, and everybody dies.
When we die, our bodies become the grass.
Yeah. And
the antelope eat the grass.
It's a circle of life.
That's where I learned about death.
Yeah, I love that moment. I thought it was really great.
Yeah.
I also loved the next moment when they're fighting, the heron and the boy, and Kiriko brings them inside and she's like, you guys have to work together because daddy said so. Which, by the way, I stand by what I said, calling the tower master that we now know his name is daddy in the first moment, because I called him daddy because from far away, I thought he looked hot. Saw him up close, was like, ooh, not hot. Realized that he was the famous voice actor that I was missing from the first part. Decided he's daddy again.
I didn't pick up that that was anybody important.
Okay, so let's see if we can play 20 questions to get us there.
Oh, no. Okay.
Because you will.
I don't remember what his voice sounds like.
Doesn't matter. That won't help you.
Okay.
You have to ask 20 questions.
Oh, I have to ask?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, Leah, do I know this actor?
Yes.
Do I know him well?
Well enough.
Okay. Is he from a movie that I like?
Yeah.
That I really like?
Yeah.
Is it Jake Gyllenhaal?
No. He went to Donnie Darko?
He was on my mind. What would be the odds if it was him?
Can you imagine?
After I made that the intro? Okay. A movie that I like. What genre?
Fantasy? Sci-fi.
A sci-fi movie?
Sci-fi fantasy.
Will Smith?
No.
I think I would recognize Will Smith's voice. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. Why is this so hard for me? I can't even think of questions.
Okay.
What year did the movie come out that I like?
In the 70s.
The 70s? Is it Harrison Ford?
You're so close.
Is it Mark Hamill?
It's Mark Hamill.
I would never have guessed that. That's crazy.
Well,
and you know, when I just said Harrison Ford, I was actually, I don't know why I thought of this. I wasn't thinking Star Wars. I was thinking of, what's that other one?
Indiana Jones?
No.
You've never even seen that movie?
No.
Maze Runner. No. Blade Runner.
Blade Runner.
I meant to say Blade Runner, but I said Maze Runner. I'm not familiar with the movie, but the book is called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And I don't know why that is what you thought.
Because the guy...
I never saw the movie.
Oh.
I only read the book.
Maybe we should do that.
You didn't like that movie.
I didn't like it. But there was a guy at the end who kind of like ran like this.
Okay.
And I was like...
So when I realized it was Mark Hamill, he immediately went back to daddy category.
Wow. That's interesting because he has also a very distinct voice. I would think that
But he does voices.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's like the Joker and
yes.
That's like his big famous thing besides Star Wars.
Yeah, Ryan actually was the one who told me that one.
Yeah, but when Mark Hamill does voice acting, he typically does like voices.
Yeah.
But I think there's like this graveliness to him that is recognizable to me of someone who just like knows that he is a voice actor.
You said
and
there
I
was
knew he was in
other,
the movie.
There was other actors that you like that are in it. I
mentioned them last time was Florence Pugh. You said Christian Bale. Willem Dafoe is in this, but I don't know who he plays.
So
but
that's
I looked it up. Maybe he's the
because...
Parakeet King. I don't know.
Oh, interesting. Because if you hadn't spoiled it that it was Robert Pattinson,
I didn't spoil it. By the way, that was Devaney.
I would have
listening to this right now.
I would have guessed that it was Willem Dafoe.
Wait, let me look up who he was. Something else I said about voice actors, which confirmed in this. I said at the end of last episode that I was going to guess Karen Fukuhara was Lady Himi, and I was correct. As soon as she started talking,
I wouldn't have known her voice because the only thing I know her and she doesn't talk.
Yeah. Oh, Willem Dafoe is the noble pelican.
Who's that?
I guess was the pelican that just died. Who else could that be?
Oh.
And David
he noble?
Bautista is the Parakeet King.
Who's David Bautista?
That name is so familiar, but I can't.
Let me see a picture.
The picture's not helping.
That's the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I don't Guardian.
I don't
Galaxy.
Guardian. I just know he has a very distinct face.
Drax.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, and he was also Blade Runner 2049.
I never saw that one. I only saw the
That's
original.
actually so funny you brought up Blade Runner, because yesterday I was listening to Hunter Schafer's Call Her Daddy episode, and she just announced that she's going to be the lead in Blade Runner 2099.
Wow. So is 2049 a continuation or a remake?
It's a continuation.
Okay. Ryan is dying to see it, and he like every weekend when we put on a movie, he like tries to convince me to do that one. I would say we should watch it for the podcast, but if I watch it without Ryan, he will
watch it with Ryan.
Kill me.
And you can watch it with Ryan. I don't need him to kill you, because then he'll lose the will to live and then I'll have no friends.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But anyway, so yeah, we learn that who we later find out is, or I later realized was Mark Hamill.
Mhm.
Daddy is actually called the Tower Master. We learn
Mhm.
that in this moment. And Kiriko, when she sends them off on their journey, which I totally predicted. And by the way, my predictions were amazing.
Yeah. I'm not that impressed because I wasn't like fully invested.
Well, I'm impressed with myself.
I'm impressed with you.
Kiriko sends them off on their journey and she gives him the Kiriko statue.
Yeah.
Back in the real world, we see Dad's upset, and
Daddy.
we learn more about the tower and the ancestor from the Yubaba grandma, the one who looks like Yubaba. This is, again, where I'm saying I feel like my predictions were good, because we learn that, well, we thought in the first section that the ancestor built the tower, which is true. He did build the tower, but he built it around this, I guess, what are they called? Star rocks? You're the galaxy
Crater?
Girl. Not the crater's
Meteor?
what it makes. Meteor. It was some meteor that I called it a sky rock.
Yeah.
It
We're
was a
both bad.
meteor that fell from the sky, and he built the tower around it. And in doing so, it does kind of seem like some curse befell the family.
Yeah.
And we also learn in this moment that Mahito's mother disappeared for a year when she was a child
Yeah.
and went somewhere.
Basically confirming.
That Lady Himi is the
That Lady
mom.
Himi.
And also, like, through this section of movie and towards the end of the movie, also confirmed my thoughts about the weird time,
Mhm.
that this doesn't exist in any time or place, because he was there at the exact same time his mom was there.
Yeah, which I think is interesting. That was something that I did enjoy. People at different points in time could come into this world and then meet up in it. I thought that was very cool and well done.
Yeah.
But again, I just wasn't terribly invested in it.
I think it also helps with Mahito's like finally accepting his stepmother, because his
Mhm.
mother obviously had a good relationship with her.
Yeah, and almost gives her blessing and is like, this can be your mom now.
And also, I raised you your whole life
Mhm.
already having this information
Yeah.
that you were going to end up here looking for her.
Yeah.
The mother kind of giving permission that I'm okay. I've died. I've passed on. Live your life.
Which again, I was judgmental of, because I was like, of course they would be like, oh yeah, for all the haters. Like, just so you know, mom's like, yeah, I'm going to have a husband and then my sister's going to bang him.
I'm honestly not even slightly judgmental about it, because if your spouse is dead, I don't think it's far-fetched that you would lean on the closest person to them and fall in love with them. I don't think that's so crazy to say. I think it would be different if it was happening while they were still alive. Obviously, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But she's dead, and these two people who loved her so much in their grief like found love in each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Fine, it's not so bad.
Yeah. And then the heron gets fixed in this next scene. Thank God.
Yeah, but not for very long.
Yeah, but then he fixes it again. I thought that
Yeah.
was like a funny little comedy moment of like
Little
building their
slapstick.
relationship, where he fixes it and then he has to whittle it down. He's like, oh,
Yeah.
whittle it farther. And he's like, stop it. I got it. And so he does it twice. I thought that was cute.
It was
And
like
now he's a heron
cracking his
again.
beak a little bit.
Oh God, what he looked like when he was not the heron was so
Off-putting.
disgusting. Though I will say, I still think this movie could have been called The Boy and his Mom. Like, I don't
The
know
Boy
why
in
it
the
was.
Tower.
I don't know why it was called The Boy and the Heron. I don't
heron
think the
wasn't
heron was an
important enough.
interesting character at all.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't make sense to me in this movie. The fact that we didn't even meet Lady Himi until halfway through the movie, she
Yeah.
was so much more of an interesting character than he was.
Yeah.
And also their relationship made so much more sense. So I didn't get what the heron was about.
I don't know. It was probably some like film buff thing that's like, well, you didn't catch the deeper meaning.
Yeah, whatever
of
the deeper meaning was of the heron, I did not
spirit guide.
get it. A spirit guide, I guess. I don't know. But he was like the worst spirit guide ever. He wasn't
So
even
you
like,
agree
helpful.
it was the worst movie?
No, it wasn't the
Okay,
worst
so
movie.
yeah, so Leah.
But
Leah
this
did-
next part was actually pretty horrible.
Tell me.
This is when we got introduced to the
Bird world,
parakeets.
yeah.
Their loud breathing.
There was So much bird activity in this movie.
Oh my God.
So much bird.
Oh my God. I hated it. I hated it.
Like, on the one hand, I'm like, I can't believe you loved this bird movie because you don't like birds. But on the other hand, I'm like, of course you would, because the birds are the bad guys.
The birds were the bad guys. Yeah.
But in the end, they all got redeemed. So.
Yeah, but this, whatever. It's fine. But these birds at this point, like he's like looking for his aunt. He goes into the parakeet house and they're like, we've been waiting for you.
To eat you.
And then they're like, we're going to eat you, but we're not going to eat your aunt because she's with child.
Yeah.
So we're not going to eat her.
Coming back to this circle of life idea, like, of course you're going to eat your prey.
Yeah.
You know?
No, of course. Yeah. And so they're totally fine. Don't judge them at all for doing what they're doing. They're just creepy while they're doing it.
Yeah.
But this is when we finally get the actual Lady Hemi reveal, which I thought was a great reveal. I loved her shrouded in fire. I thought that was very, very cool.
I was not expecting her to be a kid based on what we saw in the last section. So I was surprised. Because at first when she popped out of the fire, I was like, why doesn't he recognize her? And then I was like, oh, she's a child. She's a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. But until the very end, when they go through their doors and she's like, I have a different door and I have to go be your mother now.
Yeah.
That was the only time I started realizing how the time worked, because I didn't understand. Obviously, we knew she disappeared for a year, but I didn't know that that's where we were. I didn't know what it was. Was she like an essence of her spirit? Something with like how the family was tied to the tower? Maybe like after you died, your spirit goes back to the tower. There were so many things I was thinking, but it was not that.
I have recently read something that was kind of similar. So I think I just assumed and it ended up being right. So it didn't occur to me that there was any other possibility.
Okay.
To be honest.
But I also wasn't really getting Kiriko's thing. I guess Kiriko already existed in the world of the tower. And then she leaves and goes to the real world with. Yeah. And so I guess the old woman version of Kiriko and the young woman of Kiriko did exist in the world kind of at the same time. And I guess that explains the statue, because maybe some law of the world means that they couldn't exist there in the same time. So she was statue form.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, I don't think it's ironclad.
Yeah, I think it's all open to interpretation, or as Kelli likes to think.
I hate.
Not good storytelling. I loved it.
All the film snobs are going to be like, Kelli doesn't understand what makes a real movie. But like, it's just personal preference.
No, I agree with that. I think it's personal preference. Kelli doesn't like to use her brain when she watches movies.
I like simple movies. What can I say?
I'm a simple gal. But wait, one thing I did really like was in this next scene when they are eating bread and jam and whatever. And
this
she's
made
like,
me a little sad.
Oh, wait, was it when she was the thing I was going to mention is she says like, oh, who are you looking for? Or what are you here for? And he says, oh, it's just Natsuko. She's someone my dad likes. Is the way he described her.
Oh, that was the when he was describing like eating the bread and jam, and he was like, this tastes just like
my mom's. Yeah.
Made me a little sad.
Yeah, I thought I liked this whole scene, and we got more information too, because she says, oh, this tower exists between worlds, getting more world building there, but they're eating bread because they have to go on a journey and they're building up their strength.
Yeah.
And he cannot get lost in the tower or in the garden. She said you can't get lost in the garden, which didn't end up mattering.
Yeah.
But they were dodging the parakeet guards, who I did not like.
Didn't you? Oh, I thought you would love them.
No, I wrote, this world is my nightmare. All the evil things are birds.
Yeah. I don't understand how you like this movie. It's not even that it was off-putting. It was just that to me, it was too boring. I mean, boring to me personally, which is obviously subjective. I guess what I was thinking is the pace wasn't perfect for me.
I thought the pacing was very slow, but I found the slow moments really interesting. Even though, it kind of like, was it a plot-driven film? Was it a character-driven film? It was kind of hard to tell, because those quiet moments kind of like, there was really nothing. I mean, I loved visually how it looked. I loved the music. So that kept me drawn in kind of the whole time.
Yeah.
Also, wait, this next moment had a funny moment that please tell me you laughed at.
I don't remember what moment.
So this is when they're going to the doors and he looks through his door. He sees his dad. And then to run away.
Funny.
That wasn't it. When they're running away from the parakeets and they actually do go back to the real world. And she says if you let go of the door, you'll lose it. So the dad can see them, but they are able to go back through the door. So they go back through the door. The parakeets come out. They turn into like little parakeets.
Real
and they start pooping.
Yeah.
And then the dad's like, Mahito turned into a parakeet. Mahito turned into a parakeet.
That was a slightly funny moment. I did write that down, but I didn't write it down as like a haha funny thing. I was just like, oh.
I was like, Dad's so stupid.
But you know what? That was refreshing to me, because I will say one of the things that I hate in movies and TV shows is when a character is like, I have a prediction about what's going on here. And then they're 100% correct. And I'm like, oh, how convenient.
Yeah,
I guessed that.
The dad kind of had no idea.
Yeah, like if the dad was like, he must be stuck in a spirit world. world with his mom when she disappeared from when she was a child. Like, I would be like, so at least that was a little redeeming.
Up until this moment, like earlier in the section, we saw the dad get this conviction and be like, I need to go save them. I thought he was going to end up in the spirit world and become a part of this story.
Same.
But then when this moment happened, I was like, oh no, he's too soft-brained to figure this out.
Oh, come on. Not that. The same thing we were saying about when we watched Spirited Away and we were talking about how Chihiro is more sensitive to the world. It's not really the dad's blood.
That's true. He's not the family.
So
yeah.
He might not just be susceptible to spirit.
But also, even more than that, it's revealed that once you leave the spirit world, you forget things.
Yeah.
But he brought something with him, which tied back to Spirited Away. And I wanted to bring this up of the hair tie in Spirited Away. I think that gives us our answer. And there must be some more deeper lore about these spirit worlds that maybe we don't know about.
Yeah.
But I think that does answer the question of why the hair tie was referenced at the very end of Spirited Away. And I think what I said was correct. And I did say this I think that the hair tie helped her remember.
Yeah.
And I think I was correct.
Yeah, but I think that was also still open-ended in this film because he was like, oh, maybe in time you'll forget.
Yeah.
So still a chance. Who knows?
Yeah, kind of like Fairly Odd Parents. When you grow older, you forget your fairies. You forget the spirits as you lose your childhood sense of wonder.
Wait, do you remember that movie about the Tooth Fairy? I think it was called The Tooth Fairy or Toothless
Who's
or
in
something.
it?
Kirstie Alley? Yes.
Wait.
Where she was the Tooth Fairy. She's a dentist and then she dies and then she becomes the Tooth Fairy. As soon as you lose your final baby tooth.
You forget her.
You forget her.
Oh.
I don't know if that movie held up. So let me just say that.
We're not recommending that movie. We know nothing about it.
But I watched it as a young child.
I do remember that movie. Back when you go to Blockbuster, pick out your movie.
So what happens next, Leah?
So
be my spirit guide.
What happens next? So yeah, they end up back in the spirit world. They end up staying.
Yeah, she does give him a chance. Like, she's like, if you want to go, you can go.
And he's then like, he would have forgotten everything at that point because he didn't have. Oh no, he did. He had the statue at that point, so he would have still remembered. But still, he had to listen to her. So this is where he goes back and he ends up in that room with the aunt, and the weird paper bird scene happens. And I know you hated this scene, and I hated it too, but in a loving way. I hated it in a way that made me love it.
How many times are we gonna see this boy get covered by things in such an uncomfortable way? And then I'm just like,
yeah, this was super off-putting. And there was one thing about this scene that confused me. Well, actually,
why did
the whole
it
thing
happen?
confused me. But at the beginning, Lady Hime says, no, she's going to stay here and have her baby. But then at the end of the scene, she says, no, sister, you have to leave now. But I didn't really know why she changed her mind.
Leah, I don't know why any of that happened. That's the thing that annoys me is like, okay, I get it. It's supposed to be this uncomfortable moment where he's trying to reach out for her and she's not. Why though? Why? Why is it happening?
Yeah,
it doesn't mean anything to me.
I will say, and why I said I didn't feel connected to the story was I didn't see from the movies the cues as to why their relationship changed.
Same.
And I wish that they explored more of him and his mom. Like, that's what I wanted from this film, is way more of them.
Actually, I disagree with you on that because I think that the film itself was supposed to be about him accepting her death. And I don't think that being more attached to her would have helped. I think it was more about saying, like, your mom is already dead. Like, yes, you have her as a companion in this story, but you need to work on your relationship with your stepmom. She needs to become your mom.
I think we're saying the same thing, but I think what I wanted was the mom to get him to that place.
Yeah.
I felt like that was a little disjointed of like.
So it went from not caring to caring. And that was what was annoying.
And you didn't really, there wasn't a background of like, what was the moment that changed this character's opinion? I feel like was missing.
Although I did feel bad when she was like, I don't want you here. And I was like, oh.
I didn't get that either, but I think it maybe has to do, maybe she was afraid of the place. Because it seems like she ended up there kind of against her will. Mm-hmm. So I think it was maybe a protection of like, I'm going to act like I don't want you here and be as forceful and as even mean as possible to explain to you that you need to leave and this is not a good place for you. She obviously knew when she saw Lady Hime, she knew that was her sister because they grew up together. So she would have known her at that age. And so maybe it was scary to her of not really like understanding where she was or what was happening. Obviously, because when she leaves the world, she forgets. We don't really learn more about that.
No, yeah.
But I think obviously the Tower Master was looking for a successor. So maybe he was considering the baby for the successor.
Yeah,
like
I think there was like kind of a reference to that.
Yeah.
That he was like, now he's here, so he could potentially be. Because I think the implication, at least in my mind, was that it was originally supposed to be the baby.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Yeah. But then when he found Mahito, but I also think a lot of the like, what does it mean? Why doesn't any of this in this world make sense? Can be explained away by the ending where the Tower Master is like, I want you to stay and I want you to be my successor here. And he says, no, I can't escape the real world. We have to go back. We don't belong here. Whatever is happening here, this is not our world. We can't even make sense of half the stuff that's happening here.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to explain it away. It's like the laws of reality made no sense there because that world wasn't supposed to exist.
Yeah.
And all it's doing is causing harm to people more than good. Like it's not really doing anything worthwhile for people.
Okay. I'll give it to you. I accept.
Okay. Yeah. And then towards the end of that scene, Hime changes her mind and is sort of like, you have to go home. You have to go home. And this moment I really loved where they were kind of on a stage. This big current hits her and she falls and then the curtains close. It was like this weird cinematic moment that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed it like from a theatrical perspective.
Yeah.
I like that they set it up in that way and the way that the music hit.
You're going to hate me for this. I'm sorry, audience.
We disagree on everything.
Yeah, everything. But that to me was like them smelling their own farts. And loving it.
Like that you love to do.
Can we have one episode where we don't talk about me farting? Everyone's going to think I'm such a farter. It was like such a fart sniffing moment to me. Like they were like, oh, we're going to make it like a whole stage production. And we're going to have the curtains closed. And it's going to be like, whoa. It was like a thing. And I'm just like, you know what I mean?
Kelli is the definition of a film snob.
I'm literally the opposite of a film snob. I'm sitting here talking about my favorite like cartoon movies.
Yeah, you're just not opening your mind above like the simplicity of a cartoon child's movie.
Well, no, it's not even that. It's just like, I feel like there's different levels. Like I enjoy it. Like Blue Velvet is a film snob movie that I did really like.
The one
But
movie.
like, no, I think if I had my IMDb list, I would probably be able to come up with a good amount of movies that I really enjoyed. What I don't love is when I feel like I am pulled out of the story because I can tell that the filmmaker was like, they're gonna love this. Like, I feel like it happens in songs too. Like sometimes where you hear a line in a song and you're like, are you trying to win an award?
But I feel like with this one, they were tying the elements together so well where it didn't feel out of the blue for me because the way the music paired with the staging reminded me of being in a theater watching it. So to me, that was executed perfectly where it was like this final dramatic moment of the play and the play is over and the curtain closes.
I mean, I will say hearing it from your perspective is very different because obviously like my thoughts on it were like watching it, like each beat, I was like, this is frustrating. So it's interesting to hear from your perspective.
Because I think this moment was supposed to be the final moment. They've been beaten.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that the curtain would close.
Yeah.
But they weren't beaten because he has a vision.
Yeah.
While he's locked up with the parakeets. He has a vision and he goes to Mark Hamill, Daddy Hammy.
Wait, real quick. Do you remember that I had a hamster in college and her name was Hammy?
No, we talk about this hamster all the time.
Do we?
Yeah. But no, I did not remember your hamster named Hammy. Why did you bring that up?
Because you said Daddy Hammy.
Oh, Daddy Hammy. Yeah. So Daddy Hammy, they're in, this wide open plain and the big seed is there. It looks like a seed, but I guess it's the meteor.
Space rock.
It's a big space rock. And he wants to be the Tower Master. And I don't remember what he says. Yeah, I don't know what he says. But he wakes up, he's back with the parakeets and the heron comes back. This was the moment in the film where I was like, where is the heron? We have not seen the heron once.
Yeah.
And then he immediately pops up on screen.
It should have been called The Boy in the Tower.
I agree too. It should not have been called The Boy and the Heron. The heron part was confusing.
Yeah.
Did not get his point at all.
Yeah.
Kelli really thought hard about this film. She just decided she didn't like it and decided she had no thoughts at all.
Can you just be my spirit guide and just...
I am.
I am. Like, that's the thing. Like, I didn't think too hard about it because I was like, I don't really want to smell their farts, you know?
That's so crazy to me. And my thing too with it is like, I just feel like there's merit in any filmmaking. Like if somebody sat down and was like, I'm going to create this and put it into the world, it deserves a moment to be considered.
I'm considering it. I don't think that everything that you're saying, I'm like, yeah, but except for you theorizing like the bigger moments that I'm like, this didn't mean anything to me. I agree. I was wondering like, why is this movie even called The Boy and the Heron? Yeah. I was like wondering where he was and then he popped up. So like, I don't have anything to add, but I do agree with your point so far.
Okay. Well, okay. So the Boy and the Heron, they go on this little heist. They're like climbing through the palace. They see the parakeets. We meet like the big daddy parakeet.
Also loved that they had the things on the beams to keep the birds from nesting there.
I know. And that they kept like falling on them and they were like, well, I really was expecting one to kill a bird. I thought that was going to happen.
I thought so too. But no, I think it's funny in the world of birds that they like even have like, oh, but birds can't go up here.
Birds can't go up here. But I like that that's where they were, doing their little stealth mission.
Not so stealthy.
Yeah, they were not that stealthy, but nobody found them. These birds are not that smart. So
yeah. Well, they had bird brains.
They did have, we saw in the next moment because we see Lady Hime. She's in not the casket, but She's in like
it's a glass
box.
casket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it is a casket.
At that point, I thought she was dead.
Oh, no, I didn't think she was dead.
She was in a casket.
Yeah, but it was
Okay.
like a glass one.
A
that you
glasket.
just said, a glasket. So they bring the glasket to Mark Hamill, and the birds are freaking out about the trees. They are like, oh my God, this place is so beautiful.
Yeah.
So I guess they never left their palace before.
If I was a bird, I would react the same.
Yeah, me too, because that's their real home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they were in a fake home. And so, I mean, this world sucks, obviously.
Wow, that was so powerful. They wanted a real home, but they were in a fake home.
Well,
this movie deserves an Oscar.
You know, it got one, actually. So, though I think Nimona should have won.
Okay, so we agree. We both didn't like it.
You didn't watch Nimona, though. Nimona.
I think Nimona should have won.
Nimona was so good. You have to. We should honestly watch Nimona on this podcast just because I love that movie so much and more people should hear about it.
Okay. Deal.
Yeah, then there's like a little politicking moment that I didn't care about too much where the Tower Master is like, I want Mahito to be my successor, but the parakeet is like, well, he broke the rules, so like he can't be. And they're like, no, he's gonna be the successor. But then immediately he goes to Hime and he's like, you need to get your sister and you need to get Mahito out of here.
Yeah.
So that was another moment where I was like, you changed your mind and I don't know why.
Whose side are you? Yeah. Again, I don't have anything to add, but I fully agree with you.
Yeah, no, and again, because even later he backtracks again and when he's talking about the blocks and he's like, you have to fix these blocks. And I was like, why didn't you learn how to play blocks? And you never learned? Like, this isn't how you stack blocks.
Yeah, and that to me, again, that was the sort of metaphor thing that I was like annoyed by.
I'll tell you the metaphor.
Tell me the metaphor.
Okay. So what I'm thinking about it,
if it's as simple as he was building a world, but it's unstable because he didn't know how to build the blocks.
Well, it's farther than the blocks where it's like the world, even the world that we live in, is built so carelessly and unstably because people aren't thinking of the bigger picture. They're just thinking of in the moment, what is the quickest way? Like even the parakeet, when he built the tower, he built it as quickly as he could. He didn't think about it. So the blocks are a metaphor for like carelessness and not like thinking about bigger pictures and just trying to get what's the quickest way I can get from A to B, not what is the best way I can get from A to B.
So that part I got. But what I'm saying is like,
I didn't like the blocks as the metaphor.
Yeah. That made sense. Yeah. And I think with the parakeet also, like there was more to that, like him reacting to it not going well with violence, which was another great metaphor. But like the thing that bothered me about the blocks was like, I don't understand. Why was he like, oh, they're cemetery blocks? Well, what did that?
The blocks as the metaphor I didn't understand, but I got where they were going with it.
Yeah.
And I also liked the outcome of it, even though like the Tower Master's motivations were very confusing because he was like, you have to stay. No, leave. Okay, what did you want? Yeah. That was really confusing to me. But I did like where Mahito ended up at the end of this, where he was like, I can't keep living in the past. I have to accept this next part of my life, which unfortunately does not include my mother. But I have this new family now that I can choose to be a part of.
Yeah.
And
who needs therapy?
This was his therapy.
That's right.
It went really well for him. The Heron was a really good therapist, actually.
That's why it was called The Boy and the Heron.
Because the Heron was his therapist.
Yeah.
So yeah, in the end, he leaves and he brings his friends with him. He decides he doesn't want to be the Tower Master. He has to go back to the world, which I think was a good message in the end.
And yeah, even though for all of my complaining about the towers, I did like the way that it ended with the like violence is all he knows thing.
Yeah.
Like that's how he reacted to it. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And I was also relieved because I was like, yay, end of movie.
Oh my God. But I did like the ending, and then it answered, because like I said, I think the one prediction I made that didn't come true was I was like, Kiriko is whatever happened to her, she's in this world. Mm-hmm. But then I think I said it earlier in this episode, when I saw her go through the door with Hime, I was like, okay, so she actually is a creature of this world, but she chose to leave.
Yeah.
And she ended up, so she knew about this world
yeah.
prior, and she kept that info to herself. I wouldn't have left. Well, I guess the world was ending at that point. Her life seemed pretty good there, so I feel kind of bad for her.
It was like the universe was collapsing.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would have stayed.
Actually, yeah, I would have stayed. I would have stayed. And yeah, then we get to the end, and the Heron asks if he remembers, and he's like, oh, it's because you took a token with you. And then Kiriko becomes herself again. And
see, that was another thing that I was like,
I didn't understand.
It wasn't explained. Like, why?
My assumption is just two versions of her couldn't exist in the world at the same time.
Yeah, I believe you.
Also, I wrote Tower of Time in quotes. Did they refer to the tower as the Tower of Time?
If they did, it wasn't
they must have.
Significant to me.
Yeah, and to me that made sense because I was like, okay, yes, this exists out of time and space.
Yeah.
That's why they were able to be here at the same time. And so he got to see his mom. He got to
say goodbye, basically.
Say
Like, have
goodbye
his
to her.
closure with her,
Yeah.
which, I mean, the messaging of the film was good. Like, about overcoming your
Yeah,
grief.
you
and
just didn't like the
I didn't like the way
execution.
that it got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I acknowledge that it was a well-made movie. I acknowledge that it was a film snob movie and everybody loves it. Pinky's out. I don't think I'm highbrow enough to appreciate it. That's
Yeah.
what it comes down to.
That could be it.
People are going to be like, oh, like she thinks she's better than this film. But like,
No, I think she's worse than this
I don't think
film.
I'm good enough for this film is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I have an appreciation for like, what's the word for movies? But like literature is to fiction as blank is to movie.
Literature is to fiction.
Like literature books.
Film.
I guess I'm not a film appreciator. Take my degree.
You like movies. You don't like films.
I like movies. I don't like films.
That's like when you spell theater ER versus spelling theater RE.
Yeah. All right. And then
questions.
Yeah, that's the end of the film.
That's
so
the end
let
of the
me pull up
movie.
mine.
I liked it if you guys couldn't tell.
Oh, really? You did?
Kelly
Oh,
didn't
okay.
though, in case you guys were unclear.
I liked it. Favorite / most interesting character?
I feel like Kiriko was my favorite. And the one thing I wish I guess we don't know about is the Walla Wallas, I guess, just died with the rest of the world. So,
Yeah.
but I liked that Kiriko was like the keeper of the Walla Wallas. I liked that
Mhm.
she was a sailor. I thought her job was really cool.
Yeah.
But I also liked Mahito.
Yeah.
Literally just him hitting himself in the head with the rock in the
Mhm.
first part of the movie made him so complex and unique and interesting to me
Mm-hmm.
in that one moment.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would say he was the most interesting character
Yeah.
for me, just because it's a film in a sense that we can all relate to, in that we all unfortunately experience death.
And grief and
like,
just traumatic experiences.
Trauma. Yeah, absolutely.
PTSD.
So like seeing a character struggle with those feelings made him interesting. And one thing I say a lot about movies is I don't like when characters are so good and perfect, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
And I liked that.
I liked that about
So I
him
thought
too.
that was good.
I'll pick him too because later on I have
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Kiriko will be my answer for another question.
Okay. Least favorite / least interesting.
Should we say it at the same
character.
time?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
The
The heron.
heron.
The heron sucked.
He was the worst.
He was not what I expected.
He was the worst. The only time I did think he was funny was when, and I didn't get a chance to say it when you were explaining that he was like, oh, push it down a little bit more. Because it was reminding me, Ryan always does this when we're cooking. I don't know if you know this like stereotype. It happens a lot in movies, but it also happens in real life. When you're like grilling and there's like always a guy who loves to stand next to the grill and he's like, oh, flip that one.
Yeah,
That's what
that was.
And I was like, oh my God, he's doing just push it down a little. It's like, okay, I know.
got it.
I know what I'm
Yeah.
doing.
It's funny
Yeah.
because like, I went into this film.
By the way, Ryan does that jokingly. Like he's the one who cooks the meat, but he's always like, oh, flip that one. And I'm like, okay, Ryan, I know what you're doing.
Ryan is 100% jokester all the time.
100%.
He's never serious.
Which is crazy because I think I'm like a lot more serious. But yeah, every time I say Ryan does this, it's a joke.
It's joking.
And he's right here.
Hi, Ryan. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Sorry. We were talking about you like you weren't even here.
that was
Sorry.
rude.
But I think Robert Pattinson has a great voice acting career ahead of him.
Yeah.
Because
No,
wow.
he did a great
But
job.
I hated that character. And I didn't really understand his purpose.
You pass butter.
That's my purpose? To pass butter?
Yeah.
What is that a reference to?
They'll get it.
SpongeBob reference? Tell me I'm right.
No,
Oh.
it's Rick and Morty.
Oh, I can't with Rick and Morty.
Okay, fine. Okay, who is Leah and who is Kelly?
Kiriko.
Yeah.
Walla
Kiriko.
Wallas.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. No question on that one.
What does the film make you feel? Should I go first?
You go.
Okay, it made me feel tired. You know what? Maybe I will watch the film again if I can't sleep one night.
Oh, good idea.
Because I'll be like so bored.
For me, it made me feel uncomfortable, but in a way that I like feeling uncomfortable with films. I may have mentioned this on the podcast. I mention it a lot. Comedy is my least favorite genre. I like films that make me even more upset than real life makes me.
I enjoy upsetting movies. I think upsetting movies, and that's why I think we can both find so much interest in the main character, because it's upsetting. It's interesting to experience something that's like both true to life and terrible.
Yeah.
I enjoy that as well. I just think, I mean, I guess it doesn't fit inside any box, which a lot of people love, and I'm not a huge fan of.
Yeah.
I like putting things in boxes.
Yeah, no, I liked all the questions that it gives you. I liked the ambiguity of it. I like that.
I think that might be our next question.
Oh.
Do you have any unanswered questions?
I mean, yeah, I have a lot of unanswered questions, but I'm also sort of like, this world wasn't real, so it's like, does it matter what happens there? But like the Walla Wallas were confusing because it's like, oh, they're people, but are they? Is that true, or was that just what she thought? Like maybe she didn't know, because obviously this world has no bearing on the real world. But well, maybe.
Well, enough that it can take people away from it.
But it also, there is definitely some
Parallels.
predictions in that world because Lady Hime arrived in this world with fire powers and then died in a fire.
Yeah.
Maybe she caused the fire. Maybe the powers ended up back with her.
Interesting.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah, no, I have a lot of unanswered questions.
Like, why did they make this movie?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Why
But
is
I
the
don't
heron
mind.
in it?
Yeah, the heron, I actually think a lot of the unanswered questions I feel like could be answered of me watching the movie multiple times, seeing it from
And
a different
also,
perspective.
I'm sure, I know we've talked about this before, I think with Star Wars, that like sometimes it's frustrating when a movie doesn't give you lore, but there is lore.
Yeah.
But I think there probably is like lore we could learn more
from
about.
this.
Yeah.
And I also think, especially because now it's come up in 2 of these films with the spirit realms and then the tokens coming
Mhm.
back, there has to be some sort of like Japanese lore that like we
Mhm.
just don't know about.
Yeah,
that's what I have
that's
to
what I'm
assume with
thinking.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of this stuff. But I'd say the big unanswered question that I don't think the film did well was the heron. Of like,
Mhm.
why was the heron even in this movie? I wonder what if herons have
Oh,
significance.
yes, they do. They do. Oh, why didn't I? Sorry.
So we've known this whole time.
Yeah.
Kelli
they're-
liked the movie in the end after this.
I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be like the harbinger of change.
Then
Sorry.
Kelli, that's literally what this movie's about.
I'm so sorry. I've known that this whole time.
That makes so much sense why the heron was a spirit guide, why it was a heron specifically.
Do we not all know that?
No. I will still say that I think that the heron could have been utilized better to explain that better. Like, we didn't have to know, oh, he's the harbinger of change. I mean, it would have been nice to know that someone, maybe a host in this podcast, had that information and was maybe withholding it from us.
Like you. Okay. Would you watch it again?
Yeah.
I know this is going to come as a surprise.
Yeah, wait, I've actually been on the edge of my seat.
Yeah.
Would you watch it again?
No. Yeah. What if I had just said yes?
That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
No, I would watch it again for sure. I
would.
loved it.
Okay. Last question. Is it geeky?
No, no, it's not geeky at all.
This isn't geeky.
No, it's not.
Future generations are going to be forced to watch this movie in their film class.
Yeah.
And I feel sorry for them.
This is the least geeky movie that we have watched.
But
on
I
the
guess
podcast.
it's better than Eraserhead or some of the other films that I've had to watch for film class.
I don't know Eraserhead. I just know Threshes of the Afternoon.
I thought it was Meshes of the Afternoon.
It is Meshes of the Afternoon.
Yeah. When people ask me what my least favorite movie that I ever had to watch in film school was, I always say Meshes of the Afternoon.
I watched it in my film class in London, but I remember nothing about it.
I remember everything about it. Honestly, I would probably like it now, but I hated it then.
I'd have to watch it again. I don't even know what it was about.
Watch it for the film? What? No.
No, we are not watching that for the podcast. That is too highbrow. That is too smell your own farts for this podcast. That is the
That was
epitome of smell your own farts.
Yeah. I don't know. Now that I think about it, I'm like, it's not terrible.
Well, I don't know what
it's the
about.
love disc of movies.
That's a Pokemon.
They're geeks. They know.
Yeah, but no, this movie was not geeky. It was probably the least geeky movie that we've watched on this podcast. And I would not recommend it to someone looking for a geeky movie. And I've mentioned this before. Obviously, my knowledge is growing more, but I've only watched now Howl's Moving Castle, Princess Mononoke, Spirited Away, and this movie. This movie is so wildly different.
So different.
Than any of those other movies.
That's probably also what I didn't like about it is I have seen a good amount of his movies and I was expecting that. So going into it, I was like, what is this?
There is something on this movie that has his stamp on it, but genre-wise, it does not. The genre is so much darker than anything I've seen from him before.
Yeah.
And I think of Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli as
Comfort
children
movies.
comfort movies. And this was so far from that.
This was not comforting.
This is not comforting at all.
But yeah, I'm curious to hear what the audience thinks. I don't want to upset anybody with my opinion because again, like I'm not
You're
trying
allowed
to
to
be
not like
snobby
movies.
about it. Yeah, but I didn't like it. Did that not come
And
across?
next week, I'm really excited to tell you how much I hated The Emperor's New Groove.
Spoiler alert, that's what we're watching next week.
That's what we're doing next week.
Leah's
Long awaited.
least favorite genre.
Truly, though, so many people have said to me, like, you have to watch this movie. It's so good. Is it a Disney movie?
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny because you have such a limited knowledge on Disney, but you liked this movie, so.
This was actually one of the only Disney movies that I watched growing up. I didn't watch any of the Disney princesses.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to hear more about that next week.
Yeah,
and
we'll talk
until
about it next
then, we will stay geeky. Stay geeky.